Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. In this video I will be showing you how to make this Greek wave bracelet. This is a somewhat beginner friendly bracelet, however I would not advise to make this bracelet as your first bracelet because there are some more difficult knots in them. However, I am going to try my best to make this video as understandable for a beginner as possible. I do, however, assume that going into this video you at least know the 4 different types of knots there are for bracelet making. If you don't, I have an old video on my channel explaining them, and I also have a pinned video on my TikTok account which is a picture tutorial which you can swipe, which shows you how to make the 4 basic knots. For this bracelet you need 2 colors and you need a total of 6 strings from each color. As you can see, I have folded my bracelet. I have made a loop like this, and how I do that is I just measure one length of a bracelet how I would make it if I wouldn't make a loop, and then I just double them. For me it's usually just an arm's length, but it totally depends on how long you want to make your bracelet. But I would go with at least maybe 70 or 80 centimeters one length, so 80 centimeters out and then double it maybe. But it's a personal preference for everyone, and for me pulling out my arm's length is what works. Okay, so going into the tutorial, I am going to make a triangle start, which I will be explaining, and I will also be explaining how you make this triangle end. I use twisted ties, but you can also do braids or you can just leave the strings, that's totally up to you. So what you want to do is you want to split your bracelets, your strings, and in this case you want to pick up all of your colors and split them evenly. So for me that means that I will take out all of my blue strings and put them to the left, and with pulling out I mean just pull them completely free of each other so you can divide them equally. And we are now first going to make these triangle ends, and you want to do that by grabbing your bundle of white string, and you should have a total of 6 strings. You're going to take your string that's mostly on the left side, and what you're gonna do is you're going to make a forward knot, and then you're going to make a backward knot or a forward backward knot, bringing the string to the center. It's not visible that well yet because I haven't done the other side. Then you're going to leave that string. You should have 5 strings left, and you're going to do the same with the next string, so a forward backward knot. At this point you should have 4 strings left and make a forward backward knot. Again, 3 strings left, a forward backward knot, 2 strings left and a forward backward knot again. You've now finished the first half of your triangle start, so we're not going to do anything with that yet. We're now going to make the other half with the blue strings, and we're going to do the same, except instead of making forward backward knots you're going to make backward forward knots. So you want to take the string that's on the center the most and make a backward forward knot on top of all the other strings. You should have 5 blue strings left, and then you pick up another string and you make a backward forward knot again. You should have 4 strings left, and then you make a backward forward knot on top of the rest. And you repeat this process until you've done all of your strings, or at least until you only have 1 string left. and then it should look something like this. Now we're going to start with the pattern, and we are going to start with the inner white string, the very first one, and we are going to make 3 backward knots on top of the blue strings, and then after those backward knots we are going to make a backward forward knot on top of a 4th blue string. Once you've done that, you are going to pick up this blue string, and you're going to make 3 backward knots on top of 3 white strings, and then you're forward knots, and then you're going to make 1 forward backward knot on top of a 4th left string. So you're actually mirroring what you just did with your white string on top of the blue strings. Now, as you can see, I am also keeping tension on this string to make sure that this knot doesn't go funky when I make this forward-backward knot. Once you've done that, you are going to go to this blue string, and you are going to make a forward-backward knot on top of this white string. And with that same blue string, you can make a forward or backward knot on top of the next blue string. When you make a knot with 2 strings of the same color, it doesn't really matter what type of knot you make. Yeah, because it's the same color, so you don't... I prefer to make backward knots, but you could also make a forward knot, so that's just up to you. Same goes for these 2 white strings. You are going to make the patterns as a backward knot, but you could also make a forward knot with these 2. But I'm going with a backward knot. Then you're going to pick up this blue string again and this white string, and you're going to make a forward backward knot with the blue string on top of the white string. Then you're going to grab this white string and make 2 backward knots on top of the following 2 white strings. You're then going to go back to the white string that you did this row with, the very first one, and you are going to make 3 forward knots, 2 on top of these blue strings and 1 on top of the final white string. Then we're going to leave the white strings, and we're going to go back to the blue strings all the way on the left. We're going to pick up the second string from the left, and we're going to make a 3 forward knots on top of the blue strings and a forward backward knot on top of this white string. which should leave you with your blue string going back to the left and your white string going back to the right. Then we are going to make all forward knots on top of the blue string. So you're going to make 4 total, and you're starting with your most left blue string. Then you are going to go to your next most left blue string, and you're going to make 3 backward knots on top of the other 3 blue strings. You're going to repeat this process and making 1 knot less every time, and that should leave you with a triangle eventually. So again, your outermost, your most left blue string, making 2 backward knots on top of the other 2 blue strings. You now have 2 blue strings left. You take your most left one and make 1 backward knot on top of the other one. Then we are going to go back to the blue string that you did this row with and that you ended with a forward backward knot. And we are going to make backward knots across all of these strings. This should leave your bracelet looking like this. Then we are going to grab the white strings and we're going to just leave the blue strings for a second. And we are going to grab the outermost white string, the one on the right, and we are going to make backward knots across all the other white strings. Again, take your outer white string and make forward knots across all the other ones except this one that you just made the knots with. By doing this, we are creating another triangle on the other side, but this time it's made out of white string. After you've done that, you're ready to make another wave, and you can play back the video to the beginning and start making this part again. And you can then make the bracelet to your own desired length. Once you've made your bracelet your desired length, you want to finish up your bracelet. And just as we started with a triangle, we're also going to finish with a triangle. And what you want to do is you want to look into your pattern and decide where you are, how you are going to make your triangle. If possible, I prefer to do it at the end of a pattern, at the end of a pattern repeat. In this case, you know, each wave is a pattern repeat, so there are short pattern repeats. If you have a bigger pattern, it's usually not likely to happen. So how I am going to do it is I am going to go by this edge and this line. This will create a full pattern repeat, and then I can make the triangle ends, and I'm going to show you how I do it. It's not that different from making the pattern itself. However, if you're new to making bracelets, it's very helpful to have it seen before you try it out yourself. So this is the start point of a new pattern repeat. You've made the sides of the one before, and we are going to start with the this white string, and then we're going to make 3 backward knots on top of the blue string. And after those 3 backward knots, we're going to make a backward forward knot. You should have 2 blue strings left that you do not use to make a knot with. These 2, you can put them to the side. Then we are going to take this blue string and make 3 forward knots on top of the white strings. And you are going to make a forward backward knot on top of the 4th white string. This should leave you with 1 white string to your right, and because of how the triangle is working, you can see it. This knot is this one, so we're not going to use this one anymore. You can put it to the side, but you don't use it anymore. Next up, we're making the center of the wave. With this blue string, we're going to make a forward backward knot and a forward or backward knot on top of the blue string as well. Then we're going to make a backward knot with the 2 white strings. Then we take up this blue string and we make a forward backward knot on top of the white string. And then we are going to make 2 backward knots with the last white string. Now the center of the Greek wave is almost finished. We are going to take the white string that we made all the knots with at the beginning, and we're going to make forward knots all across these 3 strings. This part's going to be slightly different than the rest of the bracelet, because instead of making this whole triangle, we're only going to make the first row. That's because we want to make the triangle ends. So we are going to take this string is going to go to the left. We're not going to use it, same as with that white string. Then you take the next blue string and you make forward knots across the blue strings. And then we are going to make a forward backward knot on top of the white string with the same blue string that we were just using. So all of these strings go to the side. We're not going to use them anymore. This side of the triangle end is finished. Then we're going to make this side. you are going to take your blue string and very easily you're going to make a all backward knots across all of the white strings. And now you have knotted your triangle ends. We are now going to bring all of these strings to the center so that we can make our ties. I prefer to make twisted ties like these, but you can also make braids or just leave the strings. That's totally up to you. I'm going to start with the blue side first. What you are going to do is you are going to take your second blue string, so this one's, just leave it, and take the first string, and you are going to make a backward knot on top of that. Keep these two together, pick up your third blue string and make a backward knot on top of both of these strings. Again, take these three together, put them in your left hand, take your fourth string and make a backward knot on top of the three blue strings. You should now have 4 strings in your left hand and make a backward knot with your 5th string on top of these other 4. And lastly, you should have 5 blue strings in your left hand and you're going to take your 6th and last blue string and you're also going to make a backward knot on top of the other 5. As you can see, it creates a small border. I think it really shapes up your bracelet really neat. It gives them a neat finish, and you've now brought all of your strings together, and it's way easier and to make your, in my case, twisted ties when they're all together than when they are spread out like this. I'm now going to show you how to do it on the other side. It's pretty much the same, but instead of backward knots, we're going to make forward knots. So take your second white string, pick up your first white string and make a forward knot. You should now have 2 white strings in your right hand and pick up your third white string and make a forward knot on top of the other 2. You should now have 3 white strings and pick up your 4th white string and make a forward knot on top of the other 3. You should now have 4 white strings in your right hand. Pick up your 5th string and make a forward knot on top of the other 4 strings. And lastly, you're going to do the same with your last white string. As you can see, all of your strings are now brought together and you can finish up your bracelet and make the type of ties you want, whichever you prefer. This was the tutorial for the bracelet. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And if you would like me to make a tutorial or video about another topic or another pattern, please comment down below. Thank you for watching.